Keir is terrified people will realise he has no intention at all of smashing the people smuggling gangs. They're not going to stop the boats.
Let's not forget, people have gone to jail for a long time for shouting at police officers' dogs.
In his 4 months in charge of the UK to date, Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer has so far done nothing to stop illegal migrant crossings from France or from anywhere else, and nothing to bring legal immigration under control either. And now, Tommy Robinson, the former leader of the English Defence League, is coming for the Prime Minister.
Look at all you brave and beautiful people. What a gathering. What a sight. I wish I was there with you today. You are showing the establishment that you don't fear them. This government has no mandate. Keir is terrified people will realise he has no intention at all of smashing the people smuggling gangs. They're not going to stop the boats. And they'll find out there's 745,000 illegal immigrants living in Britain right now, more than any other European country. Each and every one of you is going to cost you £400,000 for each one of those individuals over their lifetime. Keir, you should be terrified. Look at this crowd today. We are sending you, Keir, a political message. We will no longer be ignored.
Those are what I consider the most important elements of the message from Robinson that was released to his supporters during their street protest in central London on Saturday the 26th of October 2024, when Robinson was in police custody. Now listen, we're letting prisoners out of prison early because of chronic prison overcrowding, certain violent offenders even being amongst those who are getting out of jail free, if you will. We let child SEX offenders walk free, no prison time involved, with a slap on the wrists. But yet, courts have been locking people up for acts of incitement, dubbed by many as hurty word offences, which led to no known harm. They are also locking people up for offences of contempt of court, which, unlike violent offences or child SEX abuse offences, aren't criminal offences but civil offences. Political activist Tommy Robinson, along with all others who are inside for contempt of court offences, aren't eligible for the early release scheme either. The ex-EDL leader will have to serve at least 50% of his 18-month sentence in custody. Under early release, he'd have had the chance of being released after serving 40% of his sentence. As at the beginning of November 2024, Robinson is spending virtually all his time alone in a cell with absolutely no human contact and absolutely nothing to do.
Despite the reassurances coming from the system and, of course, the governor of the Belmarsh Prison, things have changed. They have forcibly moved him to a new prison, a dangerous prison, a prison that previously Tommy was attacked in, targeted. It was injured. He's gone back there, but it gets worse. He's losing all his rights. The Woodhills is Category B prison, and he has actually been moved by force onto the punishment block. The punishment block. Now the problem with this is that they haven't really given him any reason, any heads up, any options. They just moved him, and he has no regime. There's nothing going on right now. So one thing is, obviously, we know that a lot of people are talking about how they want to torture him mentally, make things to make sure break him down, and also the treatment they're going to put his life, his physical life, at risk at the same time. The problem with this is that at Belmarsh Prison, even though that was also a maximum security prison, he had a regime, he had exercise time, he had open visits, people could visit him, and that we were planning to do that anyway. And they reassured him everything's going to be fine. They were going to give him a couple of options to either be moved to the block in Belmarsh or go to the open air, the main part of the prison. That was already very risky, but they said they're going to give him an option. That didn't actually happen. Right now, in Woodhill, the punishment block, he has no exercise time. He has no open visits. He can't see anybody. He can't do anything really. Tommy's category as a prisoner is Category D civil offence. It's a civil offence, category D, but he's currently in a high security, maximum security prison in the punishment block.
Public trust in the criminal justice system is currently at an all-time low, arguably with good reason.
When it came to the so-called rioters, there was this push for, justice on acid, justice on speed. We're going to lock them up fast, we're going to lock them up long. Look, Julie Sweeney and Lucy Connolly in prison, well, one for a Facebook post, one for an X post.
Robinson's contempt of court offences come from his breaching an injunction against him, which bans him from repeating claims against an individual, which, in 2021, a court deemed libellous. Robinson has since breached that order repeatedly, both in publicly shown interviews and in a film posted to his X account, which has been watched at least 55 million times.
Tommy Robinson in prison for screening a film, a journalistic pursuit, which should be protected, surely, under free speech grounds. I cannot see how he should be imprisoned for a piece of journalism, no matter how controversial. It should, no judge should be able to stop Tommy Robinson's investigation being screened, but that's exactly what happened.
Young Mr Wootton is missing the point. Robinson isn't in prison directly for relabelling a party. He's in prison for defying a court order that just happens to relate to a libel matter. Suspended sentences don't stop Robinson from repeating an offence, his previous convictions for contempt of court offences having been an important aggravating factor to his sentencing. But given the chronic prison shortage, which, as I mentioned earlier, has led to early release even for violent prisoners, we can, I say, hang on to our bewilderment that a person should be locked up for committing a contempt of court offence of the nature shown. An alternative punishment could, and arguably should, be used at least in contempt of court offences of this kind. The same applies to offences of this kind.
Let's not forget, people have gone to jail for a long time for shouting at police officers' dogs.
Is Prime Minister Starmer actively steering Tommy Robinson, who has openly threatened the PM's position, into a situation where he feels that he has no option other than to hang himself? Didn't PM Starmer hand the death sentence, for instance, to 61-year-old Peter Lynch, who mouthed off at police during the Rotherham Hotel riot, but did nothing more than that, and who hanged himself at Moorland Prison on the 19th of October 2024, a few weeks into his 32-month sentence?
Look at what happened to Peter Lynch. 2 years and 8 months in prison. He ended up dead.
Many of us are sorry for Mr Lynch and for his loved ones, and agree that the man, like many other non-violent protesters, should never have been sent down. But to my knowledge, there is zero proof that the PM either desired, intended, or sanctioned the man's death. The so-called keyboard warriors, whose only riot-related offences took the form of hate speech, were jailed as a deterrent to others, given the very background of the rioting. Law experts have said that in peacetime, those offences, if they had even reached court, would have been answered with a suspended sentence at most. For many of us, though, this is by no means an acceptable reason for the imprisonment of the individuals concerned. Prison should have been reserved exclusively for those committing acts of violence and vandalism. If all anyone had done in response to the Southport atrocity was to post to Facebook or X, there wouldn't have been any riots. Moreover, the prison place crisis was another factor that the courts should have kept in mind when setting sentences, prison overcrowding having become a massive problem long before the riots of summer 2024. In my opinion, Prime Minister Keir Starmer, a former barrister of 25 years, has got the contacts and the know-how to have the Tommy Robinsons of the world whacked, as they say in the US, without necessarily having such individuals banged up and without getting caught. As such, I personally don't think that the PM has had any input of any kind into Tommy Robinson's current situation of confinement to 4 dark walls in a place where there is a serious threat, say some, with justification, to his life. Robinson has been inside for contempt of court and for other offences before, at a point to be exact, when Starmer was nowhere near being PM. Again then, it's difficult to justify the theory that Starmer has caused Robinson's imprisonment, or that he's got a hit out on the man. Opposition parties who, unlike Robinson, have a parliamentary presence are more of a threat to Mr Starmer's premiership than Robinson, I'd say. So Mr Starmer would be more likely to take a contract out on their members than on Mr Robinson. That's if Starmer actually embodied any such mafia-like strategising in the first place, of course. Robinson's treatment as a prisoner indeed sounds like something from Auschwitz, and like many others, I too would like to know the truth to why he's being treated as he is and whether his treatment is even legal. I am doubtful, however, of ever reaching the truth, but if by miracle we do get it and we see that Robinson has been a victim of unlawful and unjustified victimisation and discrimination, then I'll 100% be in support of his calls for justice, assuming he then fights one such cause. If there is a bounty on Tommy Robinson's head, it doesn't come from any member of the UK government, in my opinion, and I have no idea who is behind it. Those who say, meanwhile, that Tommy Robinson is a first-rate grifter who, by surrendering with his guilty plea to a fresh term of imprisonment, is additionally seeking the status of a martyr, have good cause, I believe, for doing so.
So do you think that actually this is a deliberate ploy to get attention or to gain support by making it appear that he has been jailed and that his free speech is under threat, and so he's actually done this on purpose? Is that your belief?
I don't know what goes on in Tommy's mind. If I was a cynical person, I'd say absolutely. And it's not just about making himself into a martyr for freedom, for being a free speech warrior. He does make a lot of money from donations from his supporters. I read reports that he'd been donated something close to nearly £100,000 on the back of this, of him being taken into custody on Friday. So it's not just about appearing to be a martyr or trying to become a victim. There is definitely a monetary purpose behind this, and I wouldn't want to speculate what goes on in his mind, but I do feel that these things we cannot overlook, we cannot ignore the elements, the monetary value, the monetary elements and so on behind all of this.
Who knows? I'll say once again, though, that sending someone to prison for a contempt of court offence like Robinson's own, when we're suffering a chronic shortage of prison places, is crazy in my view. If you've enjoyed this video, I recommend you to watch this one next. I'll meet you there.